The wind howled outside the small station, sharp and cold like a blade made of ice. Gavin Holt sat near the heater, holding a mug of hot tea with both hands. It was another quiet night on Cythera 6, a frozen moon far from Earth. Gavin had lived here alone for 2 years, maintaining old machines left behind by the Terran terraforming Corps. He didn't mind the quiet. No wars, no politics, just machines, snow, and silence. Suddenly, the station's alarm beeped. A red light flashed on. The panel. Motion detected, the screen said. Gavin frowned. Nothing ever moved out there. The wildlife was long gone and the nearest colony was 800 kilometers away. He pulled on his coat, grabbed a scanner, and opened the front door. Cold air slammed into him. Snow blew in swirls across the ground. But then, he saw her. A figure, small and hunched just a few meters from his station. Her skin was a soft violet color and her silver eyes blinked slowly. Wrapped in a tattered cloak, she held something close to her chest. Not something. 2 small children. The woman looked up at Gavin. Her voice was weak, shaking in the wind. "My children need a father." Then she collapsed. Gavin rushed forward, heart racing. He caught the woman just before she hit the ground. The children didn't cry. They only stared up at him with big, quiet eyes. They looked like her, alien, but not frightening. Gavin didn't think twice. He carried all 3 inside. He laid the woman on the small couch and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. The children sat beside her, still silent. Gavin knelt and checked her vitals. Pulse, weak. Breathing, shallow, but steady. She was cold, starving, and exhausted. He gave the children warm packs for their hands and feet and made some soup using what little he had. They accepted it without words, sipping carefully. After a few hours, the woman opened her eyes. She looked around slowly, then at Gavin. "Where am I?" "You're safe," he said. "This is a human outpost. Who are you?" She hesitated. "I am Vela of the Yulari. My people, they no longer welcome us." She looked at her children, her expression full of sorrow. "I walked for many days. The snow never ended. Then I saw your lights." Gavin studied her. She looked peaceful, even in pain. The children were tired, but calm. He had read about the Yulari before. A quiet, proud race from the southern stars. They were known for their beauty, intelligence, and strong family traditions. "You said your children need a father," he asked gently. "Why me?" Vela turned her eyes to his. They were filled with something more than sadness, hope. "In Yulari law," she said, "a widow cannot raise young without a bonded guardian. My mate died in the war. My clan refused to help. A father figure must be named, or the state will take them. I heard humans value children, that you protect family." Gavin sat back, stunned. He was no hero. He was just a maintenance worker on a forgotten moon. What did he know about being a father? But he looked at the kids again. They stared at him quietly, eyes filled with silent trust. "What's your name?" he asked the boy. "Tolan," the child said in a soft voice. "And yours?" he asked the girl. "Kari." They spoke his language. Someone had taught them. Or maybe they had learned on the way here. Vela sat up slowly, holding her hands near the heater. "I can help. I studied terrabotany. I know this land. I can fix your air scrubbers, grow new plants. We only need shelter and someone who will let us stay." Gavin didn't answer right away. He had spent years running from people, from noise, from responsibility. But now 3 lives sat in his small room, trusting him to say something that could change everything. "You don't want me to be your mate?" he asked, unsure. Vela shook her head softly. "Not unless you choose it. The word father in my tongue means more than blood. It means guardian, protector of the hearth. It is a sacred role." Gavin stared into the heater. The flames danced quietly, casting a warm glow. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. These three didn't deserve the cold. "You can stay," he said quietly. "For now, we'll figure things out." Viola nodded, her eyes closing with relief. The children leaned against her, tired but warm. That night, for the first time in many years, Gavin didn't feel alone. Outside, the snow continued to fall, but inside, something had changed. A light had returned to the station, not just from the heater, but from hope and the quiet beginning of a strange new family. The next morning, the cold light of Cythera 6 crept through the small windows of Gavin's station. The frost on the glass sparkled like tiny stars. Inside, the warmth of the heater and the soft sounds of breathing filled the room. Viola sat, quietly, watching her children as they slowly woke. Kari rubbed her eyes and stretched, while Tolan yawned and blinked at the strange new world around him. Neither child spoke much, but they seemed safe for the first time in a long while. Gavin moved carefully, making breakfast with the little food he had. The alien family ate slowly, sharing what was left of his supplies. The small meal felt heavy with unspoken words. Viola finally broke the silence. "My people," she began, "were once proud. The Yalari had a peaceful world called Sarlath. It was full of life, forests that sang with wind, rivers that shone like glass, but the war came." She looked down at her hands, folded tightly in her lap. The war between the Coalition and the Dominion, it changed everything. My mate died protecting our home. The land was burned. The trees fell silent. Gavin listened carefully. The pain in her voice was clear, even though she spoke slowly. "I fled with the children, but my clan did not follow. They say I am weak for leaving. Without a male guardian, I cannot keep Kari and Tolan safe." She met Gavin's eyes. "On my world, a father's role is not only to protect. He teaches strength, honor, and hope. Without this bond, the state will take the children." Gavin swallowed hard. The idea that children could be taken away because of rules he didn't understand made him uneasy. But he saw how Vela's eyes pleaded for help, not pity. He took a deep breath. "What happened to your mate?" Gavin asked quietly. Vela's lips pressed tight. "He was a warrior of the Yalari Guard. When the Dominion attacked, he fought to the last breath to save our home. His name was Rylan. He promised me he would watch over us, even in death." Tolan tugged at Vela's cloak. "Mother, will we be safe here?" Vela smiled weakly. "We will try, my son. We will try." Gavin felt a strange warmth rise inside him. He was no warrior, no hero, but maybe he could be a guardian. If not in battle, then in the small, quiet ways that mattered. Over the next few days, life at the station began to change. Vela proved to be more than just a survivor. She was skilled in xenobotany, the study of alien plants. While Gavin maintained the old machines, Viola explored the small patches of land around the station. She collected frozen seeds and roots buried beneath the ice. She spoke softly to the plants as if waking them from a long sleep. Gavin watched her work with growing respect. One morning, Viola called him outside. "Look," she said, pointing to a small green shoot breaking through the snow. It was fragile, no taller than a child's hand, but it was alive. "This is a start," Viola said. "If we can grow plants here, maybe we can bring life back to this moon." Gavin nodded, feeling hope for the first time in a long while. The children adapted quickly. Kari showed a quiet curiosity, asking questions about the stars and the machines. Tolan was more reserved but smiled often when Gavin taught him how to fix small gadgets. At night, Gavin read stories from his old tablet, telling tales of Earth and the heroes who built starships and explored new worlds. The children listened closely, their eyes wide with wonder. Vela watched from the corner, a soft smile on her face. But the peace could not last forever. One afternoon, while Gavin repaired a broken air scrubber outside, his scanner beeped urgently. "Unidentified. Signal detected," the screen warned. Gavin's heart tightened. He looked toward the horizon. A faint shape moved through the snow. A small ship, unlike anything he had seen before. He hurried back to the station. Viola was there, tending the small green shoots. "We must be careful," she said quietly. "The Dominion will not forget us." Gavin looked at her, puzzled. "Why?" he asked. "Because my children are not just children," Vela explained. "They are the last of our line. The Dominion wants to control them. If they capture Kari and Tolan, they will use them as symbols of power." Gavin's mind raced. "Can we stop them?" he asked. Vela nodded firmly. "We must show them that this family is protected, that humans and Yulari together are stronger." The ship landed with a soft thud outside the station. 2 figures stepped out, humanoids but wearing uniforms and carrying advanced technology. Gavin stepped forward, standing between the strangers and his new family. "I am Gavin Holt," he said. "These children are under my protection." Dio, leader of the visitors, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice, replied, "We are Dominion officials. We mean no harm if you cooperate. But the children must come with us for their safety." Viola stepped beside Gavin, her eyes shining with quiet strength. "They will not go," she said firmly. Gavin felt a surge of determination. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about family, about hope, about proving that humans could protect more than just themselves. He looked at Vela and the children and then at the Dominion officials. "This is my home," he said. "If you want the children, you will have to get through me." That night, as the cold stars watched, silently Gavin sat by the heater holding Kari's hand. Tolan lay asleep nearby, dreaming of faraway worlds. Vela looked at Gavin with a new kind of respect. "You are not just a guardian," she said softly. "You are the flame that will keep us alive." Gavin smiled, feeling something he hadn't in years, a deep, steady hope. Outside, the moon was quiet, but inside the small station, a family had begun to fight for a new life. The days on Sithera 6 passed slowly, yet every moment felt full of new challenges and discoveries. Gavin's small station, once silent and lonely, now hummed with life. Viola worked tirelessly alongside him, her hands gentle yet skilled. The Adair children, Kari and Tolan, grew stronger with each passing day. Outside, the icy landscape stretched endlessly, but inside, a small family was beginning to take root. Vela taught Gavin things he had never imagined. Each morning, she would bundle the children in warm clothes and take them outside, showing them how to read the tracks in the snow, how to find shelter under the frozen trees, and how to listen to the quiet sounds of the land. "Nature always speaks," she told them, her silver eyes bright. "You only have to learn its language." Gavin watched with admiration as Kari crouched by a small patch of earth Viola had cleared. The girl's delicate fingers traced the frozen ground, searching for signs of life beneath the ice. Tolan followed, Gavin to the workbench where broken tools waited for repair. Gavin showed him how to use a screwdriver, how to tighten bolts, and how to listen for the soft clicks of a machine coming back to life. "It is like magic," Tolan said with a small smile. Gavin chuckled. "It's science. But magic sounds better." Inside the station, Viola began working on the terraforming equipment. The machines were old and battered, and many parts had frozen or rusted. But Viola's knowledge of plants and ecosystems was a gift. She adjusted filters, repaired broken tubes, and carefully planted seeds in small trays filled with special soil. "This moon needs life," she said one day. "Without it, the air will stay thin, the ground hard. But if we bring green back even a little, the future can be brighter." Gavin admired her determination. The small green shoots that poked through the snow outside were proof of her hope. One evening, as the cold wind rattled the windows, Gavin sat beside Vela. "Why did you come to me?" he asked. Vela looked up, her eyes reflecting the flickering firelight. "I heard stories of humans, strong, kind, and brave. You don't give up easily. I thought, maybe, you could be the father my children need." Gavin felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't known before. He had always run from responsibility, but now he was ready to stand still. But peace on Sithera 6 was fragile. One morning, Gavin noticed strange signals on his scanner again. This time the signal was faint but growing stronger. "Someone is coming," he said, his voice low. Vela's face grew serious. "The Dominion won't give up," she said. "They want to take the children, but we are ready." Gavin and Vela began preparing the station. Gavin fixed the old security systems, adding new sensors and cameras. Vela worked on the air scrubbers, making sure they could last longer. Together they planned how to protect their small family. The children sensed the tension but didn't fully understand. Kari asked Vela, "Will the bad people come again?" Vela held her close. "We will keep you safe, little one." One afternoon, as Gavin taught Tolan how to use a scanner, a soft beep sounded. "Movement detected," Gavin said. He grabbed his coat and stepped outside, Viola and the children close behind. In the distance, a small ship broke through the snowstorm. Its engines hummed softly, and lights blinked like stars. Gavin stood tall. "We will not let them take you," he said, more to himself than anyone else. The ship landed smoothly, and two figures emerged. Humans, but not like Gavin. They wore dark uniforms with badges and carried devices that looked powerful. The leader, a woman named Captain Celine, spoke clearly. "We received a signal from this moon," she said. "We are here to assist." Vela stepped forward, her voice firm. "We do not want your help," she said. "We want safety. My children are not your property." Captain Celine studied Viola, then looked at Gavin. "You have taken responsibility for them," she said. "That is unusual for a lone human." "Why?" Gavin met her gaze without fear. "Because family is more than blood," he said. "It is love. It is protection. These children are under my care." Celine nodded slowly. "Very well," she said. "But the Dominion is watching. They will come. You will need allies." That night, Gavin and Vela sat together, planning their next steps. "We cannot fight forever," Vela said softly. "But we can build a future." Gavin looked at the children sleeping peacefully. "We will teach them to be strong," he said, "to survive, to hope." Viola smiled. "You are more than a guardian now, Gavin. You are the hearth, our home." Days turned to weeks and life grew steadier. The small green shoots Vela had planted became tiny plants. The air grew fresher. The children laughed more, learning new words and games. Gavin found new purpose in the daily routine of care, work, and love. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the frozen mountains, Kari climbed onto Gavin's shoulders, her eyes shining. "Tell me a story, Father," she said. Gavin smiled and began a tale of heroes who traveled the stars, of families who fought not with weapons but with hope. As the stars blinked awake, in the sky above, the small family huddled close, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring. Because on this cold, distant moon, something warm had been born, a promise of life, and the strength of. The cold wind swept across Cythera 6, carrying with it a sense of urgency. The small family inside the station felt the tension like a quiet storm. Outside, the snow hid many secrets, but none as dangerous as the past that was coming back to claim Vela's children. Gavin stood by the window, watching the horizon. The small Dominion ship had disappeared, but he knew it was only a matter of time before more came. The harsh reality settled in. Protecting Viola and her children would be harder than he thought. Vela sat nearby, tending to the small garden of green shoots that had begun to grow under the station's weak lights. She looked calm, but Gavin could see the worry in her eyes. "We must be ready," she said quietly. "They will not stop." Gavin nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." Days later, a warning came from the distant communications tower. A Dominion patrol ship was heading toward the moon, faster than any normal traveler. Gavin worked quickly to prepare the station. He repaired the old security turrets, tested the sensors, and strengthened the airlock doors. Viola gathered herbs and medicines ready to tend wounds if needed. Kari and Tolan sensed the change. The children asked many questions, but Vela answered with care. Sometimes the past comes back, she said, but we are stronger together. Gavin spent nights teaching the children how to move quietly, how to hide if needed, and how to trust each other. It was not the lessons he ever imagined giving, but it felt right. The day the patrol ship arrived, the sky was a dull gray. Snow fell in soft flakes, hiding the world in white. From the small observation window, Gavin saw the ship land with a soft thud near the station. 2 figures stepped out, Dominion officers, their faces unreadable beneath their helmets. Gavin stood, tall, holding Kari's hand tightly. Viola stood beside him, her silver eyes shining with quiet strength. The officers approached slowly. "You have something that belongs to the Dominion," one said. "The children must come with us." Gavin's voice was steady. "They are not property," he said firmly. "They belong with me." The tension grew like a silent fire. The officers glanced at each other. "Then you leave us no choice," the lead officer said. Gavin's mind raced. He could not let them take Kari and Tolan. Not after all they had been through. Using his knowledge of the station, Gavin triggered an old security system, a low but steady alarm that echoed through the station and outside into the frozen landscape. Warning. Unauthorized removal attempt detected. Vela moved quickly to close the heavy doors, while Gavin armed the turrets. The officers hesitated, caught between duty and the unexpected defense. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the station's entrance. The officers tried to force their way in, but the reinforced doors held strong. Gavin took a deep breath. "This family is protected," he said. "We will not give up." The children clung to Vila, their faces pale but brave. The standoff lasted hours, with Gavin and Vila working together to keep the officers at bay. Vila tended to the children, whispering words of comfort and courage. Outside, the snowstorm began to worsen, hiding their small station from prying eyes. Gavin felt something new growing inside him. Not fear, but fierce determination. He was no longer just a man trying to survive. He was a guardian, a protector of hope. In the quiet moments between the chaos, Vila called Gavin by a word he had never heard before. "Tor Viran," she said softly. "What does it mean?" Gavin asked. "It means father and guardian. Protector of the family and the future." Gavin felt the weight of the word, a sacred promise that he accepted with all his heart. As night fell, the patrol ship finally retreated, unable to breach the station's defenses. The officers left with a warning. "This is not over," they said. "The Dominion will return." Gavin and Vila stood together, watching the ship disappear into the snow. "We survived," Vila said quietly. "But the fight is only beginning." That night, as the children slept safely, Gavin and Vila sat by the fire, their hands entwined. "We will face whatever comes," Gavin said. "Together." Vela smiled, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames. "In your heart, you are more than human," she said. "You are our hearth, the fire that keeps us warm." Gavin looked into the fire, feeling the truth of her words. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside the small station, a family stood strong, united by love, courage, and the unbreakable will to protect each other. The snow had stopped falling, and the first faint light of dawn crept over the frozen mountains of Sithira 6. Inside the small station, the family sat quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. The battle with the Dominion officers was over for now, but the future still held many uncertainties. Gavin looked at Vela and the children, feeling the weight of responsibility more than ever. He was no longer just a man alone on a distant moon. He was a guardian, a father. Days passed in a cautious peace. Gavin continued repairing the station's equipment, making sure everything was ready for the harsh winter ahead. Vila worked on her small garden, tending the fragile plants with care and hope. Kari and Tolan played quietly, their laughter slowly returning. The children had begun to understand that this small station was their home, and Gavin was their protector. One afternoon, Gavin received a transmission on the old communicator. The voice on the other end was calm but firm. "This is Coalition. Command. We received your distress signal and the message from Captain Celine. We offer sanctuary for Viola and her children under human protection. You will not be alone." Gavin stared at the screen, the words filling him with a mix of relief and hope. Viola joined him as he finished listening. "This is a chance for safety," she said softly. "A chance to rebuild." Gavin nodded slowly. "But it means leaving this place. Leaving what we've built here." Viola smiled gently. "Sometimes to protect a family you must take a step into the unknown." The days that followed were filled with preparation. The coalition ship would arrive soon to take Viola, Kari, and Tolan to a secure settlement. Gavin would remain their legal guardian, a bond recognized by human and Yalari law. Though the thought of leaving the only home he had known made Gavin uneasy, he understood the importance of this new beginning. When the ship finally landed, its white hull gleaming in the weak sunlight, the family gathered outside. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, helping load supplies and checking the children's health. Kari hugged Gavin tightly. "Will you visit us?" "Every chance I get," Gavin promised, his voice thick with emotion. Tolan looked up at Gavin, with wide eyes. "Thank you for being my father." Gavin smiled, feeling a deep warmth. "You don't need to thank me. We are family." Viola stepped forward, her silver eyes shining with gratitude. "You saved us," she said simply. "You gave us hope." Gavin nodded. "And you gave me a reason to fight." The ship's engines hummed softly as the family boarded. Gavin watched as the ship lifted off, carrying his new family toward safety and a better future. After the ship disappeared into the sky, Gavin stood alone by the station's door. The wind was cold, but inside he felt a fire burning, a promise of new beginnings. He turned back inside where the small garden of green plants reached toward the light. The machines hummed softly, ready for the next cycle of life. Weeks later, Gavin received a message from the settlement. Vela's voice came through the communicator, warm and full of hope. "We are safe. The children are learning and growing. And I'm proud to call you their father." Gavin smiled, holding the message close. He knew that no matter how far apart they were, their bond would never break. Under the cold stars of Sithera 6, a man once, alone, had found a family. A family born not of blood but of love, courage, and the strength to protect one another. Humanity had reached out into the stars and, in doing so, had become a hearth, a place of warmth and hope for all.